Genie Plus is reaching its highest rate in 2024, but it's also the albatross around the company's neck. Let's talk about that on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here is my ancient mariner friend, Mr. Vash Sky. Vash, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, Well, I got to scan in with my magic band, though, because we're talking about Genie Plus right here. So hopefully my mariner skills will come in handy. I don't know. I screwed that up.
Do they still do the magic bands in the parks?
Oh, yes, absolutely. They just don't give you them free when you actually stay at the hotel.
That's right. It's all on us until it's not, after we get you used to it. Disney Genie sells out several options early today at Walt Disney World. This from WD Magic, and this was 51 minutes ago. Genie Plus is sold out of 3 of 5 purchase options early today at Walt Disney World. That must be a good thing. You think that's a good thing? It might be a good thing. As of 10:45 a.m. on March 25th, Magic Kingdom, Disney's Hollywood Studios, and the multi-park options are all sold out. Guests can still purchase Disney Plus for Epcot at $32 and Disney's Animal Kingdom for $29. The sellout comes despite Genie Plus being priced at its highest ever level, which was priced at today at $39 for Magic Kingdom and multi-park options. Disney Genie Plus is a purchase option within blah, 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 blah. We understand this problem, and we understand this is a product people are buying. So just going to say this right here. Everyone is voluntarily buying into this system. And for those of you who don't understand what Genie Plus is, it is an app and a crowd management system that the Walt Disney Company employs. I think you get access to Genie for free, but if you pay for Genie Plus, they give you a certain amount. It gives you access to Lightning Lane. And even within that, though, there is a individual Lightning Lane for certain rides that are excluded from Genie Plus on the base level of Genie Plus. And those individual Lightning Lane attractions, you can pay an additional fee on top of it in order to have Lightning Lane access for something like Rise of the Resistance. That would be, I think, the kind of ride that is in that. Are they currently doing boarding groups as well through Genie and Genie Plus, Vash?
Yeah, separate system, I guess. That's what they call the virtual queuing that you're able to necessarily access for Cosmic Rewind still, and then Tron, I believe, is what the current virtual queue systems are. So you have these litany of systems that interact with Genie Plus, but depending on what you want to do, they're a little separated. Anyway, it's very complicated to go to a Disney park now.
Right, and this is before you have to worry about reservations, or if you're an annual pass holder, whether or not there's even capacity for pass holders in that day. But of course, you can always look at the good to go days to see whether or not you can get into the park on that specific day. Those are different from the blackout days, by the way. It's kind of the opposite, and those are circles around the dots on the calendar. So just keep that in mind. I'm being a little sarcastic here as we're going through a brief overview of the complication of Genie in the park. But the thing that we're really, the problem here, of course, with Genie Plus and this entire system right now is it makes the company too much money. And
yes,
that is an odd thing to say as we're talking about share price for the Walt Disney Company, because you have people essentially they're paying that base level price for a ticket. The minimum right now is $104, which that's fairly cheap for a Disney ticket. That's not how much it costs right now. But
no.
And on the high end, we're getting closer to 160, 170, things like that. But Genie Plus on top of it is an additional, as we saw, can be up to $30, $40 a ticket per person in your party that wants to have access to the Lightning Lane. So instead of the Lightning Lane, what we used to call the line is now the standby lane, and then what used to be Fast Pass or Fast Pass Plus is now the Lightning Lane. This is paid access only now. So something that used to be free and now costs money.
Yes,
it is.
And go ahead, Jonas. Well, I was just going to say, some people have argued it's like, well, the system used to be included, but if you necessarily separate the system, then you can basically you don't have to be so aggressive about raising the price, right, for these for the ticket entry into these parks. My suggestion is it's like, well, yeah, but the system that was included was, providing for everybody. They didn't sell out in this same way that you have here with Genie Plus, especially when it comes to a busy time period like this Daily Mail article actually says Orlando Airport issues warning for Disney travelers to arrive 3 hours early as spring break visitors overwhelm city. And stunning videos show massive crowds at Walt Disney World. Orlando saw a record-breaking 102,000 departing passengers on March 16th. This was a lot, right? And
MCO is a difficult airport to navigate on any given day.
Oh,
so
yes.
I can't even imagine what it's like doing that at spring break. As a tourist, I generally stayed away from. Sorry, as a resident, I generally stayed away from the tourist areas on tourist days.
I don't disagree. So you have this level of these level of crowds happening. You get to the park and then you're forced to make this transaction for Genie Plus, even to get a chance at riding your favorite attractions right here. It's very overly complicated. Like you said, they're over earning at the parks, and this is something that Bob Iger himself has suggested that yeah, you know what, we may have been a little bit too aggressive right here, and yet they still have these systems in place, and these things are priced for accessibility when they really should be. If you're going to have a separate a service like this, maybe exclusivity, because now we're integrating the old fast pass systems onto these paid for options right here that weren't necessarily designed to handle that. And because people are paying for it, now you have this priority structure. We've talked about the incentivizations before in terms of efficiencies, and well, is it better for the company's bottom line to necessarily make these rides more inefficient in order to sell more Genie Plus? It's a bad system,
Right.
folks. This is all broken.
They are the ones controlling the wait times on these rides, and so inflating those wait times, they could either make it look like they're running the parks well, which they have no incentive to say that they're running the parks well. This disincentivizes them from making new attractions that alleviate capacity. So they want those big rides, those e-ticket rides that bring people in, and they can charge an additional $12 on top of the people who probably are. I don't know. Do you have to have Genie Plus even be eligible to do individual Lightning Lane?
So with the a la carte options, no. So the a la carte options, like
well, at least there's that.
Yeah, at least there's that, right? But again, though, we're nickel and diming, and we're getting away from this something that was more value oriented to something that's a little bit like it's like some of those other cruise lines where you get on, you have to pay for everything afterwards. It's like, well, wait a minute, why didn't you include this in the base price?
We don't want Disney being compared to Spirit Airlines here. Except that the fact that it would be like Spirit Airlines, but if Spirit Airlines went ahead and charged you a premium price before you got on, and then found out that in order to have any legroom, you were being charged for that. So the problem here is that right now the parks are the surefire, actual profitable part of the company. Media networks
Absolutely.
right now, unless they separate media networks and DTC out, which they're not going to. DTC is a drain on the company. It is about to, after many years of many billions, more than $12 billion spent, they're about to get to the point where it is no longer a revenue loser for the company. And now they can try to build that thing to the point where it can make money for the company. They're doing this by cutting costs. They're not doing it through growth. They're doing it by shrinking spending. So I would say that is a short-term thinking strategy in order to be able to say, no, we're definitely profitable at this point, even if they're making $1. So they're shrinking here. Right now they have the parks kind of subsidizing the entire company. ESPN
Absolutely.
is about to get on that streaming train, by the way. They're about to go onto that DTC route because they see linear as a sinking ship and a shrinking revenue stream. So they're about to jeopardize ESPN here as well. And that leaves the parks to be the profitable segment of the company. And when I say the parks, that of course includes the cruise ships. Cruise ships actually profitable, DVC profitable, but propped up by the parks themselves. The parks right now are as expensive as they've ever been. The rise in regular admission, it just keeps going up and up and up. And right now, Genie Plus is in a situation where you're essentially making a bet that everyone else in the park is going to be getting this, because if you don't get it, you'll end up in that standby line. Frequently, we see lots of Instagram posts, long lightning lane lines and empty standby lines.
Right.
So it's just generally a problem across the board here when the lightning lane line becomes the line, and then you have the poor line over here. They can't get rid of this because the parks right now are subsidizing the rest of the company. They're
Correct.
also subsidizing the international growth. So when we see the U.S. parks, they're 75% of the parks revenue, and this varies. So this is a general figure here.
Mm.
75% of the parks revenue of the company is with those U.S. parks. So they cannot back away from Genie Plus and keep the company afloat right now. They cannot please shareholders if they back away from their one, what appears to be a surefire revenue stream. But this is something that is strangling the U.S. parks. So, Vash, what can they do to save this?
Well, I think the Genie Plus isn't going away. Like you said, it is propping up the entire. A large part of it is propping up a large segment of the Parks Experiences division. That's for sure. So, can we necessarily charge more? Make it more exclusive because they have like a 50% buy-in right now, which is insane. That means that every single individual Lightning Lane is going to look like some of those Instagram posts, right? Especially when rides break down and so forth. So it's like, okay, can we necessarily make this more exclusive by charging a heftier fee, but limiting it even further so that the standby runs more efficiently, and so it's a better product for people who actually are willing to buy into it, and we can still keep that same revenue, in the company's coffers necessarily, and not necessarily get rid of this new revenue stream that they've created. This is my big problem with this whole thing. When I was speaking out about this back when MaxPass was a thing at Disneyland, I said, look, listen, the company's just going to they're going to take this too far, which they always do. They always take everything and just drive it into the ground, like, I don't know, like pins, for example, or Vinylmation or whatever. They just go too far with it, and I think that's what we're seeing right here.
Right. They see dollar signs and then they can't back away because right now the company is not profitable enough that they can back away from this. So the thing that I see is we'll compare it to, because we always bring up Universal, because someone will bring up Universal as, well, Universal is charging for this. And I'm going to emphasize here, for those of you who think we are biased between Universal and Disney, yes, we are. Do you understand what I'm saying here?
Oh yeah.
Universal is a different standard. I wasn't chiding you, Vash.
Oh yeah.
Disney is held to a different standard than Universal because Disney holds themselves reputationally to a higher standard than Universal. They feel like they are better than Universal. They feel like they are, quote unquote, the only game in town. So yes, Disney does not need to be looking to Universal for how they handle things here. Although they need to be careful because Universal is really upping their game, and we'll be covering Epic Universe on That Park Place Live this week. They've got some big things coming. That being said, this $150, $80, this very high end that they are charging for Universal's Express Pass, that is high enough that not everyone buys it. If everyone was buying it, we might be having a conversation here about Universal needing to back away from this. But right now, that is a product that is so expensive that it does not affect the average consumer at a Universal theme park. Right now, the problem with Genie Plus is that it is so popular that essentially everyone has Genie Plus. You have to factor it into your day, just how many people have bought into Genie Plus. And you have missed the boat if you didn't get Genie Plus. So it's priced low enough that you feel stupid if you didn't buy it. But it's also so popular that you feel stupid that you did buy it.
That's a perfect description, honestly. And because of that huge buy-in, that's why we're seeing the numbers that we are from the parks segment. I mean, it's buying everything right now, which is good. That's great. But when you look at the long-term ramifications of it, especially when it comes to a guest experience level, I think this is why Iger was talking about over-earning in this segment and how it does more brand harm than good in the long term. This is single-step thinking right here. This is quarterly thinking here. This is not long-term successful thinking here. And so when everybody ever throws me something and goes, the park segment's doing fine, what are you talking about? It's like, obviously you have no experience with this product, and we are seeing that on social media and other forms. And I think that's why Disney has been aggressive in this the deals, right, that they've been having, like the summer deal that we cover here on That Park Place, the hotel deals that they've had multiple times here, and so forth, because that perception is changing, and people are necessarily backing off on going to Walt Disney World or Disneyland as frequently as they did.
Right. And I think it would also be a different beast entirely if all of that money was going towards maintaining these parks that are generating these massive Genie Plus numbers. If they were going towards upkeep at the parks, which we're seeing a lot of complaints. Matt Nelson Peltz, for instance, pointed out that these parks are a little long in the tooth. I think he was referring to very old attractions that are still there. But if I'm looking at this favorably, actually, I'm pointing out that things like Carousel of Progress, where you got hands falling off of animatronics and things like that, or even newer rides that were not engineered enough that they don't shut down several times a day, like Rise of the Resistance. This is something that even if that money was going directly back into the same park that is funding this, there might be a case here to be made. If this was something that was benefiting the parks and actually raising the quality level at the parks, okay, that's great. That's like a toll road going back, the tolls going back into paying for the road. But in this case, it's going to other parks. It's going to other segments of the company. So this is where I want to throw it to the audience here. What do you think about the Genie Plus problem? Is there a solution here? Do they raise the price to match Universal? Do they get rid of it entirely? Is there some middle ground that we're not thinking about? And of course, for those of you who don't have a comment, if you could like this video, we would greatly appreciate it. And consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.